I am the playwright. I am the primary artist. I am the one who creates a story from my own point of view. I put in countless hours, days, months, sometimes even years to create a production. With the countless hours that I put into creating a story, I am not an employee of the theater, and I cannot join into a union as a typical Hollywood screenwriter can. This means that I cannot make nearly as much money, and I cannot demand higher pay. The Dramatists Guild of America. Copyright laws only allow me to make a small fraction of what a screenwriter makes. I essentially rent out my plays and get royalties for their costs. But for me, it's not about the money. Being able to have my thoughts and my stories touch the lives of the others is far more valuable than a paycheck.
Dialogue is the spoken word of the text, the words that the characters say. These include fillers like so. Parentheticals. It helps interpret a particular line of dialogue, which is a short description of lovely, angry, or terrified. They are enclosed in parentheses and usually italicized. Stage directions are notes that indicate the physical movements of the characters. The director and actors usually decide the majority of the stage movements. Theme. Playwrights are philosophers. They search for the meaning in the world. Their search results reveal life, a moral, or a central idea. An example would be the effects of racial stereotyping in the theme of David Henry Hwang's play *M Butterfly*. The theme of a play is more often implied than directly said. Actions are the characters' deeds, their responses to circumstances, which in turn affect the course of the story. Characters in plays come to life not by what they feel and think, but by what they say and do.
So today I'm going to speak to you about language in plays. Language for the playwright is like their paint. They put it together to create something. But dialogue doesn't begin with words. It begins with the need to talk. Even small talk can be traced back to our need for companionship. So later on in life, while we're growing up, we learn to manipulate language in order to settle scores, find love, and defeat enemies. Dialogue is a mixture of what the character needs to say and what the character is compelled to say. There are 4 tools that the playwright uses to express dialogue. The first would be subtext. Subtext is the hidden meaning of what the character wants to say. So subtext is the hidden meaning behind the character's words. It's the real reason they choose to speak. It is also important to playwrights. They need to understand how people listen, because sometimes people filter things through their own prejudices. Imagery is easy to convey in movies because they're often set on location, but in plays it's harder because we're confined to space and the budget of the play. Painting is sometimes used by the playwright. This is a verbal way of conveying the scene of the play. So the next tool the playwright uses to convey dialogue is rhythm, tempo, and sound. By choosing their words carefully and adjusting the sound, the playwright can reveal a character's true feelings. Rhythm in dialogue creates a pattern, which is used to create an emotional response. Rhythm and sound convey particular tones and evoke character type. Dialogue is designed to be spoken at a particular speed. In this way, the playwright reveals the character's thoughts and emotions.
Playwrights are usually trying to plot the stories of life. However, stories and plot aren't the same thing. However, story is everything that happens and plot is how it all fits together. For example, the king and the queen dying is a very basic story, but the king died and the queen died of grief is plot. A play generally only has one story, but can have multiple plots, including the main plot and the subplot. In order to plot the story, a playwright must use something called plot structure. Plot structure is the order of events chosen by a playwright to help explain the chaos of life. In order for a playwright to plot the story, they must first figure out the genre of the story. Genre is a category of artistic work that has a particular form, style, or subject matter. The 2 different types of plot structures that playwrights use are unique and conventional. Playwrights don't always come up with a new plot every time they tell a story. Sometimes they use a thing called formula plots, which are a blueprint for their story. Formula plots use a basic beginning, middle, and end. However, sometimes playwrights abandon this formula in order to let the story grow naturally from the character's motivations, actions, and needs. Writers who abandon the formula usually are trying to show life the way it is or how they perceive it rather than staying in the standard structure.
want to talk to you guys about what the character is and how characters they created. Playwriters they are the person they create the characters. Playwriters they love to study about people's life, and after they study about people's life and they understand the emotion and what's going on with people's life, they write, they play or a story or a poem, and that create the characters. That most of the playwriters they create the character by whatever they study in people's life, or they most likely they experience in real life they have. Like a lot of story I wrote and I study about the writer, I figure out that reflects their life in that story, and that's me they create the characters. Actors bring characters to life instead. Actors they should understand what's that character's personality is, and they live on that for that period of time they acting. And it is very important actors they do and they feel the characters in that play. Playwriters they love to study about people's life. With that and whatever personal experience they have and whatever emotion they have, they create the characters they in their story. And it is very important to understand the characters, to understand the story and what that playwright try to say. Actors, they bring the characters to the stage. They make the characters live in a stage. They have to understand to absolutely feel and understand the characters to create the best actors in that play. We have two different kind of characters in each play. One is antagonist and one is protagonist. Antagonist in different words is the hero of the story, and protagonist is the against of hero. Usually they say it is the bad guy in a story, and these two characters usually make the play more interesting, and they always conflict with each other. They show the story can work, how audience they like them. That's all different. That bring the different things in the story with these two different characters. Right now I want to talk to you guys about action. What is action? Action is what bring to a stage, and that show the personality of characters. In other words, what the characters do when something happens. Usually we all characters in real life in different area, and sometimes we take the action for something happening and sometimes we don't. Like when police give us ticket, we want to take the action but we don't, and we take the ticket and we go to court and take that action over there. Action is bring the emotion of what we want to do in different situations, and different things happen to us. That's mean the action we take for that.
The beginning of the play consists of time and location, character relationships, and a little bit of exposition, also known as the backstory of the play. Also in the beginning of the play, the playwright introduces the protagonist, which is the good guy, and the antagonist, which is the bad guy. A crisis must occur between two characters that draws the audience in. This is other known as an event. The lives of each character have balance, but that balance must be disturbed to cause conflict. This is called disturbance. After a disturbance, the protagonist must make a decision that will cause conflict. This is considered the point of attack. This decision defines what the play is going to be about. This then leads the audience to question what the outcome will be.
We call this the major dramatic question, other referred to as the MDQ.
I am middle, and I am filled with conflict, crisis, and complications. I am also governed by something called rising action, which makes every obstacle and every conflict more complicated and more dramatic than the one before. In order for each character to achieve their goal, they must overcome conflict, which is the struggle between two forces, crisis, which are what makes the character take the necessary steps, and complications, which are are the roadblocks that stand in the way of said goal. And these three things are what make the play interesting because, like Richard Walters said, no one wants to see a play about the village of happy people. And after all the drama, the middle comes to an end with the dark moment, where the protagonist fails to achieve their goal and now it seems unattainable.